Alright guys, I'm back with my review of this week's episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Season 8, Episode 5, I believe. The gang gets analyzed. And this was a very funny episode. I really like this one. And it starts off with Dee talking to her psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist told Dee that she should have a dinner and sit the gang down and they can work out their differences. And of course it fell apart. It blew up in her face. So she actually brought the gang with her to show the psychiatrist just how crazy they all are. And the psychiatrist is actually played by Trudy from Reno 911, which is funny because that's another show Danny DeVito worked on. But the gang comes in and Danny DeVito has these dishes and he just throws them down and says, "I'm not doing the dishes." And they're pissed off because someone's got to do them and none of them want to do the dishes. So that's what they're all angry about. So they decide maybe they should have this one-on-one sit-down with the psychiatrist, and we can see a little bit more of their personalities. And of course Dennis thinks that he is a psychiatrist and doesn't need to be analyzed. He's just there to work with the psychiatrist and analyze the rest of them, which was really funny. And Max says, "I want to go first," and Dennis says, "Well, I'm in charge of deciding who gets to go first, but yes, Mac, it is you." So that was great. And the first one is Mac. So he's doing his karate stuff, and he tells the psychiatrist that he gained and lost 60 pounds in 3 months, and that he used to be a monster. And when people saw him walking down the street, they would go the other way. And the therapist tells him that you're not a monster. And he says, "Don't you think I know that? And I'm starting to think I'll never be that monster again." So she realizes that he actually wants to be seen as a monster. He wants to scare people. And then he picks up a pen and says something like, "This looks like a dick." And then he starts to chew on the pen, which was hilarious. And he tells her that Dennis has been giving him size pills to make him bigger. And we find out later that it's really just diet pills that Dennis gave him because he thought he was disgusting when he was fat. So it was a way to make him lose weight. And Mac thinks they're making him bigger. So that was really funny. And then we get Charlie. And Charlie also had some great moments here. He's talking about how he liked to glue cat fur on the back of his neck. And he eats cat food to go to sleep. And he's telling her how he survived an abortion. And do all these things make him weird? And she says, "No, you got to be yourself." And he says, "So you're saying maybe I should glue a lot of cat fur all over my body and run around the streets at night like a cat person?" And it was just crazy. He's got like a dead pigeon in his pocket. And then we get Frank, who is telling the psychiatrist about how he grew up and went to this school for the mentally disabled. And he got his first kiss there from a girl who had no lips. And she died 2 weeks later because she thought she was a spaceman with a plastic bag as a helmet. And the whole time he's telling her this, he's like eating these nuts and spitting the shells out all over her desk. And he's freaking out. He's like, you zipped me open. It's all coming back. And it's playing like this emotional music in the background. I really like this. It was freaking hilarious. But who's next? Dennis is next. So Dennis comes in and he shows the therapist that he's got all these folders he's been keeping on the gang their entire lives. He's got ones from Dee that are written in crayon back when they were children. So he's talking to the therapist and he says that it's a powerful thing to know you can get inside someone's mind and flip that switch, although you know you never will. Well, I shouldn't say never. I could. I probably will. That was awesome. And he's telling her about Mac, and he says, "I bet he chewed on this pen, didn't he?" He did. "I have to hide all the pens in the apartment." And then she's trying to like analyze him, but he just won't do it. He only wants to talk about the other people. And then he ends up drawing a picture of her with giant breasts like he always does and says, "Do you like it? It's very generous." So that was awesome. And then Dee comes in for hers. And the therapist is talking to her about how she needs to quit lying. And Dee told her all these stories about how she was supposed to be the lead in The Notebook, and then she starts talking in like an accent. And out in the lobby we see the other team, Dennis, Mac, Charlie, and Frank's on the couch and he's crying and he's still freaking out. He tells Dennis that he had there was another kid in the womb with him and Dee, and that they ate him. They gobbled him up. his name was Donnie. And Charlie tells Dennis that he should just do what he wants, and Dennis slaps Charlie in the face, and they start fighting. So Mac doesn't want to take his size pills anymore. It's chaos now. The whole group, the dynamic of the group is falling apart. So they barge in and they tell the therapist that she needs to fix this. She's ruined everything. And they really don't care about their problems or anything else going on in their lives. All they care about is who has to do the dishes. So she just says, Dee, do the damn dishes. And Dee snaps. The gang starts laughing at her. They leave, and Dee just starts smashing dishes all over the therapist's office. And that was the end of the episode. So it was a fantastic episode. Very good. One of my favorites of the season so far. I really like this episode. Last week's was pretty good too, and the second episode I remember being good. So overall, the season's been pretty enjoyable. Much better than I thought after the premiere episode. I wasn't a big fan of that. I wasn't a big fan of the Wedding Day Massacre episode. So I had my doubts, but so far the season has delivered. And anyways, that's my thoughts on this week's episode. Hope you guys liked this video. Leave your thoughts on this week's episode in the comments below. And thanks for watching. Bye.